Welcome to week 5 of Steve's Shack. Got a lot to get to this week, so let's get to it. We're going to start off by breaking down Allen and what exactly has made him just so dominant thus far. Did a little digging into the numbers, and they really tell an interesting story on Allen. Allen hasn't only been dominant of the team that he plays. He hasn't been winning based on, catching teams at the right time. He's really had an amazing first third of the season. There's no way around it. I came into it hoping to find, some disparaging tale where everything's built on a house of cards, but really it's not. It's been just from week 1 on, it's been a great start to Allen's season. One thing you find out when you look into Allen's team is, as his wide receivers go, so his team goes. His wide receivers have just been on a tear. The cumulative score for Allen's wide receivers has averaged at 44.5 points a game. The rest of the league starting wide receivers average out at about 27 points a game. So that tells us that Allen, out of just his wide receivers, is getting an extra 13 points a game. That's a huge push for Allen, and that I know that's what's driving his team. The secret to Allen's success is his wide receiving core. And as long as Rob Gronkowski and Wes Welker are still catching passes from Tom Brady, there's no reason to think that he's going to let up anytime soon. It's pretty scary, actually. There have been 2 weeks in which his wide receivers have had a cumulative score of over 55 points, which is ridiculous. Allen has not just out of his wide receiver score outdone the league. His average score has outdone the league too. Every single week, without fail, he has either met or outscored the league average, and by a sizable margin. His average score is 105 right now. That's incredible. And the league's average score, if you're wondering, is only 82. Allen is just on a tear. He's killing it in every single direction, and it's pretty good. If he's going to have an Achilles heel, it's going to be his quarterbacks. He had a really great, almost lucky showing out of Kevin Kolb week 1, but Allen's quarterback situation has just been floundering since then. And he's sputtered away all the way to a 0-point outing from Jay Cutler last week. Ben Roethlisberger is hurt. Cobb is touch and go depending on the week. And he's only averaging 11 points out of his quarterback position. Really, the rest of his team is picking up that slack. The league average is 19 points a game. All things told, though, Allen's poised for a fantastic season. I don't think he's ready to go undefeated, especially because of that quarterback issue. But Allen is going to be tough to beat, and he's going to be a tough matchup for anybody who plays him all throughout the season. Week 4 turned out to be a pretty good week for me. Not really that much could be said for the rest of the league, but with the exception of Justin. However, this is one of those weeks that makes me wish that I could have rollover points. I only needed about half of what I scored. So, I don't know. Sometimes fantasy's a funny lady, but having the Ravens defense score 43 points for me on top of a 27-point outing from Beanie Wells, things went pretty well, and I finally got myself into the win column. Justin managed to somehow hold off BG's 52 points from Aaron Rodgers with his 4 throwing touchdowns and 2 running touchdowns against my pitiful Broncos. The rest of BG's team was pretty abysmal in this game, but he still, just on the back of Aaron Rodgers, scored 96 points. However, Justin had a really balanced attack. Everybody came after it, and Justin ended up at 2-2, and somehow he's scraping together a fighting chance this season. I'm pretty proud of Justin and the way he's constructed his team. He's got a dangerous team, which is what we thought he would have all along. Allen managed to escape just by the skin of his teeth, despite Jay Cutler throwing up a goose egg from the quarterback position. And Rob Gronkowski only gave him a half a point, which is almost unheard of out of anyone on Allen's wide receiving core. But 27 points out of the Lions defense, and Wes Welker continuing his amazing streak of just point diarrhea, managed to just barely give Allen the edge in this 87-83 victory. On the back of 4 different players scoring 15 points or more, Kevin managed to handily take care of Jared, who's still floundering, trying to figure out what he's doing at quarterback and hoping that Chris Johnson catches fire and takes his team where he wants it to go. The good news for Jared out of this game is that Arian Foster looks to be back, and he should have the number 1 running back in fantasy now. Infuriating as it is, Kevin managed to increase his record to 3-1 and just very quietly keep pace with Allen. If Allen has one slip, there's almost no reason at this point to believe why Kevin wouldn't keep pace. Matt Stafford is going to be a beast for him, and there's just no telling from week to week exactly what Kevin's gonna have happen to his team. But as it stands right now, he's 3-1 and he's second place in his division. He's in good shape right now. Last week's GOT dubs did not disappoint, and Devin, despite 3 points out of Ryan Fitzpatrick, managed to get the 81-77 victory over Mike. Very, very tight game, and a really exciting game. Just a balanced attack out of both teams. Adrian Peterson only gave Devin 4.5 points, but on the other side, Darren McFadden only gave Mike 7. Really what pushed it over the edge was Megatron's 22 points. That Dallas game really hurt Mike. He would have won without it. But now Devin is 2-2 and right back in the thick of things in the red division. Not too terribly much to tell you in the way of the NFL right now. The league's just pumping along as it normally would. This week, I guess personally in my life, has been more dedicated to the Brewers, so if there was any big NFL news, I wasn't admittedly on top of it the way I normally would be. The only big story was that Brett Favre said something that some people kind of determined to be a backhanded compliment maybe to Aaron Rodgers, and because the media, for some stupid reason, absolutely adores Brett Favre and hangs on every word that he says, they have to analyze it and turn it inside out. Myself, I can't stand Brett Favre. I think he's a disloyal, stupid, idiot prima donna who doesn't know when to shut up or quit. And I'm not going to say anything else about him because I don't want to give him that pleasure. Not quite as much action on the waiver wire this week around the DFL, and I threw my name into the hat as far as the trading block goes, trying to get some takers on the QB front. I've got Cam Newton and Tony Romo and Michael Vick all for sale for whoever wants to look at upgrading their quarterback position. Jesse, meanwhile, is still trying to offload some of his wide receiver talent to upgrade, probably, I'm guessing, at the quarterback or maybe running back position. He's pretty loaded with Deshaun Jackson, Roddy White, Marcus Colston, Robert Meacham, even Denarius Moore, and Jimmy Graham at tight end are all pretty good wide receiving options. A lot of great games this week in the DFL. A lot to be excited about this week. We'll get started with Jesse versus Hedgie. This game, as we all know, has intrigue just to see if Jesse can move a step closer to getting a monkey off his back of losing to the dregs of the DFL. But if there's any game that Hedgie's going to win, historically it's going to be this one because Jesse just always seems to have a problem facing the lesser teams in the DFL. Jesse just has a better lineup top to bottom, but there's no reason that Hedgie couldn't pull up this upset, especially with just the way luck seems to fall when Jesse plays the bad teams in our league. And I'm not saying Hedgie's bad right now. He's bad. There's a really intriguing little game that I don't think many people are going to think about except for the two guys that are in it, between JVS and Mike. This game, I think, could have long-term implications with regards to where seedings happen, whether either of these two teams even get into the playoffs. And I know you're probably thinking,
playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
But yes, I am talking about playoffs right now. And I don't think it's too soon to start talking about them, especially when you have two teams that seem to be as evenly matched as these two teams. Really, they're not too far off from each other, just in the way they're made up. They both have inconsistent wide receiving cores, they both have super powered quarterbacks, and they both have on-again, off-again running backs. Really, I would give the edge between these two teams to Mike because I think Run DMC and LeGarrette Blount are much more stable options than the Law Firms and Michael Bush. This game, I think, could be a lot bigger down the road than we even realize right now. I continue my quest along the comeback trail this week against the enigmatic Kevin. This week, Kevin and I are going to square off with fairly similar teams. Having Matt Stafford as his quarterback really stabilizes his team a little bit, but Kevin's just as likely to score 150 points as he is to score 29 points. Not a ton of stability where Kevin's concerned, but very high ceiling. Having said that, I think the stability provided between Beanie Wells, Greg Jennings, and now AJ Green, along with Michael Vick, the stability of my team should be able to carry me forward and give me that second win. If I lose this game, go to 1-4, I'm not gonna say stick a fork in me, but it's a much, much longer road back for me. There's another intriguing little matchup going on in the red between Devin and Jared. No matter how low Jared's gotten this season so far, he still has somehow managed to just seem like he's viable. He hasn't had that one gut-wrenching, foot on your throat loss that just tears his heart out and tears away his will for the season. If he loses this game to Devin, it could be it. I don't see any reason outside of just the crazy anti-luck that happens sometimes in fantasy football that Devin loses this game. He should win. This week's GOT dubs is between BG and Allen, and I love BG's team. I think he's put together a sneaky good wide receiving core, and Aaron Rodgers at the helm right now with the way the Packers are moving the ball is almost a world beater by himself. It's going to be interesting to watch over the course of this year if BG decides to make a trade to upgrade his running back core, because I said it at the beginning of the season and I still believe that his running back core is going to be the thing that holds him back from a championship if anything does. However, this week I think he's got enough to beat Allen only because Allen's quarterback situation has been in such shambles. I think BG comes away 4-1 just like Allen, and the league is no longer at risk of having someone run the table on us.